Greg and the Mafia. The most insane fanfiction story we have ever read. And now we're back for part 2, which is gonna end this epic saga. Now where we left off, Greg was in a pretty weird spot. I mean, he just killed his best friend that sent hits on him and ratted on him in the gang. It's basically on site with the Italian gang now. Alex Aruda is still in China and hasn't heard anything about what Greg did. So when he comes back home, he's gonna find out, and I don't think that guy's gonna be too happy. And after Mr. Gupta cleans up what Chirag did, he's gonna be coming after Greg with the Indian Mafia. So he's gonna have a lot of people coming after him. So hopefully this guy can defend himself against all these different gangs that are gonna be coming after him very soon. So now that we're all caught up with the recent events that happened in the first part, why don't we hop into the first page of Greg and the Mafia part 2. Fuck me in the ass, dude. Excuse me. But it feels good to write that. It would feel better to say it, but you can't read that. Why am I in such a bad mood? Why have I been away for so long? Well, let me just start from the beginning. Approximately 1 year ago, after I lost it at the sit-down, Gupta, after the surprise death of the Godfather, he made it so that I wouldn't be able to leave the country, and I was now limited to the people I can make business with. Wait, why can't I sell to Vietnam? 'Cause fuck you, that's why. It's been rough since I lost my parents, old man, and even Tyson. Even with me taking down Fregley and Chirag, eliminating the Godfather and Leland, things haven't gotten better. Ever since last year, with all the deaths and losses, things have been going downhill. To make matters worse, we've lost Plainview. Yup, it all started with an FBI agent that went missing in our area, which got some people turning heads our way. There was a full investigation after they found out about the mass killings and people missing. Hell, the remnants of Fregley's didn't even last a week. They were all either killed or sent to prison. However, just like what Fregley predicted, a new gang has risen from the ashes of his faction. But right now, they're really just acting as target practice for the cops. I got one! 2 points! It was horrible. It took us 2 months to relocate to a disclosed area. I'm not saying where. We settled somewhere in another estate. We had always known that this day would come, so we had backup areas to set up shop in case another was found out. In fact, we were in the middle of moving out when some stupid FBI agent named Patty Farrell came knocking toward our door. I wasn't there to see her, but based on what my goons told me, they were really suspicious about our business in the area. You see, as a cover-up business, we sell lemonade and medical drugs. Totally not something suspicious. Yet, unfortunately, there was another investigation, and before I knew it, more of my goons got taken into custody and put on trial for organized crime. So, you are saying this isn't you, sir? Yeah, man, there's no way you can tell it's me under my awesome ski mask. And sadly, the FBI connected the dots and eventually traced it all back to me. They had me in cuffs and put me on trial in no time at all. I bet Aruda was having a blast watching this on TV. Hell, I bet that son of a bitch sent the FBI agent there in the first place. Those sons of bitches had me on trial for everything in the book. They even found a way to link me back to all the deaths caused by the AIDS gang. What are you in for? I sold cocaine and lemonade and usurped the Mafia at age 16. LSD is one hell of a drug, kid. The only reason I didn't get butt-fucked in prison was because while I was being held in pre-trial detention, my goons finally decided to be useful and busted me out of my cell. It was all a blur, with gunshots and dynamite being thrown. It was all a complete mess. It was weird too. As I was running away, I saw a bunch of guys wearing the same jumpsuits as me. Later, I found out my goons didn't know which cell I was in, so they just started letting out as many people as they could find. I was going to tell them that the cells have windows so the guards can see the prisoner, but what's done was done. Sometimes I ponder how I got this far with these kind of goons, but I digress. We almost lost our lives trying to get out of the building. Even if I was shot, it wouldn't have been the first time. Yet, I'm really glad I had my goons as meat shields. I mean, it could have been worse. I could have been killed, but that's why I have goons. They just die for me. To make a long story short, we were able to get away from the cops. I was a wanted man, so I had to get a new identity and change my appearance. I even had to get rid of my old uniform, but I had to get rid of it eventually, since it was still used by the Italians. Speaking of the Italians, they haven't really made a move since the Godfather's death. With the FBI checking the area, they have mostly gone underground, based on what I can tell. Except for one. Jordan Jury. The day after I killed the Godfather, he sent me an email saying that he knew I was the one responsible for his death, that he blamed himself for not killing me in the pizzeria. His last statement in the email was that he predicted by the end of the year, I'd be dead. A little rude in my book, but what do I know? That was the last I've heard of him. Not even during the trials did he send me a "I told you so" email. As far as I know, he was probably killed by one of the FBI pigs. Then again, I might have heard about it from one of my goons if he died. Yet, if their information gathering is as bad as everything else they do, that's probably not a surprise. Yo bro, you wanna play baseball with grenades? Sounds bitchin'. Sadly, during this madness, I burned my original journal, in fear they would find the evidence and use it against me. I'd be sent to prison for longer than I can count, so I don't know, 4 years? This Patty Farrell person is gonna be the death of me, I swear. Tuesday. This morning I got a call from one of my casinos. Since every other country is off limits, I needed to find more ways to make money. I don't like leaving others to manage my business for me, but it pays the bills. But I was ready to swallow that pill when I heard the news they had. Rodrick is alive. Hey boss, there's a guy over here claiming that your brother's alive or some shit. Rodrick. Of all the people that I needed right now, was him. He may have been an ass, but he's the last bit of family I have. I thought Manny had killed him 2 years ago when he joined the Al-Qaeda. To give you an update on how Manny is on his whole Al-Qaeda shit, well, I got word from an insider in the Middle East Mafia that when a couple of white Americans tried joining Al-Qaeda, they usually end up on the other end of the stick. So that's something. For all excited I was, I stopped to consider if this was a trap. I've never told anybody about my siblings except for Holly, and she's been away for a while. Someone could have done some digging and found out that way too. Either way, I'm ready to roll that dice to know if he's alive. That night, I got in my car and brought 2 goons with me in case things went so. Can't be too careful. If I'm going to hear this information, I'm not going to be sitting at home twiddling my thumbs waiting for the information to come to me, only to come up false. Besides, how can the owner of the Sturtevant Casino possibly be harmed? My only concern are my goons. One of them asked me a question, and now I feel 10% dumber. Why don't black guys get white tattoos? We arrived that night at the casino. It was crowded, but we went into the back to get inside. There, a couple of men were waiting for me and escorted me into the back room where a manager was sitting. He greeted us and got drinks. I declined and demanded to know who knew where Rodrick was. He looked a little upset when I asked him, but he snapped his fingers. His goons went to the closet and opened it up to reveal a beaten man with a gag in his mouth. The manager said that he had come here yesterday, stating that he had important news just for me. The manager stated that they had tried to beat the information out of him, but the fool would only give it to me. You know, man, you could have just told me over the phone. Yet he was committed to getting me here. After all, he stated that he came all the way from Mexico just to give me this information. He said that Rodrick was being held captive by one of the Mexican mobsters. Of all places, Mexico is not my favorite. You see, unlike other countries where the mobs are either just gangs or big guns or literal underground world powers, Mexico is a mess. The cartels over there are powerful enough to be a threat, but they are so disorganized that their lieutenants usually stay in power for a couple of weeks. After that, they either disappear, jump the border, or become pig chow. However, 3 big capos have managed to remain on top in Mexico. The pork cartel, with the territory in the east, the coalition, which has control in the west, and the Ming cartel in the north. We've worked with the Ming cartel before the ban. They supplied us with the drugs we needed. South America is one big problem that I don't want to get involved with, especially with the ban from all other countries still in effect. Hell, I think there's a drug war going on over there right now. Even if I wanted to help Rodrick, I'd be a dead man if I stepped foot over the border. It wasn't even worth getting mad over. I told my goons to let him go, and make sure he never spoke of this. My goons asked if I was gonna kill him, but I wasn't in the mood. You don't even want to poison him, boss? Taco Bell is too far away. Let's just go home. This morning, I got up from trying to figure out a way to get Rodrick into America. The Mexican dude didn't specify who the guy was, just some Mexican mobsters. The Meng gang broke ties with us after the coup, so asking them for help was out of the question. I was so upset that I called my goons in for a meeting. I waited a couple hours for all the goons to reconnaissance back to the estate. Only 10 goons showed up. When I asked where the rest were, one of them talked. This was all of them. The rest were either in jail or dead. I thought they were joking, but no one was laughing. Are you sure that's not flipped upside down? Others had left under my nose, probably due to the working conditions. I didn't know they were a bunch of pussies who couldn't handle getting their hands dirty. Then again, I think we went through 10 goons a day, mostly being used as meat shields. I wasn't one to be deterred, so I called up the bank so I can make a loan to hire more goons. Yet when I called them up, They said I had no more money, saying that I had given it all to give India last week. I don't know how Gupta figured out my other bank account, since the original died when I started hiding from the FBI. So I ask you, what rational decision must be made at a time like this? Gentlemen, it's time we go on a crusade. I don't like the sound of that. Oh shit. I have been planning a plan B ever since this Mafia thing went south. To be honest, I didn't think I'd ever be able to get this far in the first place. But even when I did kinda started regretting it, being a mob boss with competition ranging from the common thug to the US government is very stressful. Plus, I think the goons that are left are planning another coup, and I don't want to end up at the bottom of the lake. My plan is to first free Rodrick from the Mexicans. The next part of plan B is to put all the casino money into another name, fake my identity, and finally fake my death to hide out with my brother in Canada. I hear Canada is a very forgiving place, and that their mob gives you pancakes before they ice you. Sorry about this, eh? Don't worry about it. Thanks for the flapjacks, eh? Gupta still knows I'm alive, since he knew to hack my fake account. Leaving the country will have him on my ass for sure. So once I'm in Mexico, I'll have to keep my face hidden and keep communication at a minimum. The Mexican mobs don't have any foreign connections with Europe. I doubt that most of them have even heard of India. As I got my goons to begin the trip to the south, I called up Holly to tell her we needed to talk. We met at the restaurant we had a first date at. She looked more worried than happy to see me, mainly since I hadn't called her in 2 months. Greg, why haven't you been answering my DMs? To be honest, too much cringe. Holly noticed the lack of goons with me and asked if I was okay. I said that I would be going to Mexico to save my brother, that I had to come give her one last gift to remember me by, just in case. Wednesday. We, today, are on our way to Mexico. I left 2 men to stay at the estate, made sure they answered anyone who came knocking. The alibi? We went on a business team bonding experience. On the way there, I was kind of afraid they might run us by through customs, but the border patrol was very professional in their check. Are you a taco? I don't think so. Okay, you're good. We made our way to the Ming Gang's headquarters. We spent 5 minutes in town before one of my goons got iced. It happened really fast too. First, my driver's head got popped. The passenger goon didn't even have time to grab the wheel before we crashed. We immediately grabbed our weapons and hid down in the cars. A rain of bullets hit the cars. I couldn't hear my goons in the other car, but the sound of an explosion kinda helped me get a feeling of the situation. The damn busted down the window and took me by the neck. I blasted one of their heads off, but another one whacked me in the head. I almost got knocked out, but I was able to stay conscious enough to see them apprehending my goons that hadn't blown up. I remember hearing a lot of yelling after they put a sack over my face and put me in what sounded like a trunk. It felt like hours before they took me out and brought me into an air-conditioned room. The goon told me, "Stay here, gringo." The idiot didn't even know how to pronounce Greg, so I corrected him. For some reason, he looked at me funny. I swear the education system has failed. The blow to the head hurt like a bitch, but it wasn't enough to stop me from taking in the situation. I tried making small talk with one of the guards, but they only spoke Spanish. It felt like an hour before a dude in a suit came and took me out of the cell. The guy said his name was Emilio, and that he had to apologize for the excessive force used by his goons. They were told that nice-looking cars were usually used by opposing drug dealers, since the Ming Gang doesn't use fancy cars. You must understand, this is the land of Corollas. I don't know what a Corolla is, but it sounds underwhelming. I asked them how they knew I was someone they should be letting go. What if I was a rival drug dealer who looked American? He said it was because the Mexicans know better than to just waltz into town, sticking out like sore thumbs. I'm not gonna lie, that kinda hurt my feelings. He led me out of the cell and put a sack over my face, so that I don't know any exit or entrances in case I escaped. He brought me to a much nicer hallway that looked like that of a mansion or a villa. Before he opened the door, he wanted me to know that if I were any other American, I'd be 6 feet under already, but the boss wanted me alive. He opened the doors, and sitting there was Alex Aruda. "Congratulations, Greg. You insulted my intelligence." I didn't hesitate to reach for my weapon, but they had taken it off of me during their apprehension. Alex Aruda laughed as the raised their rifles. Emilio grabbed me by the arm and sat my ass down on a chair. Alex chuckled that he had to give me credit for getting this far in the business. I told him to cut the shit and asked what he was doing in Mexico. Alex snapped his fingers at some men, went to grab him some wine and poured him a drink. Alex took a sip and said that when he found out that Chirag Gupta was dead and that I had recently come back from a job full of holes, he simply put 2 and 2 together. He knew that Mr. Gupta would point fingers at him immediately if his son were to die, since the Italians were in a pact with the Indians and the Triads had always been on the rocks with the Guptas. Alex then said that he had gone to China for a few months to wait out the storm, while the brothers he left in charge would take the heat for him. However, he didn't anticipate me taking the reins and killing the brothers along with Leland. Unfortunately, that didn't go well with the Triad, knowing that they had lost a stake in the Americas, yet they knew better than to kill Aruda. They instead sent him here to take control of the Ming gang. How he did it, to him, wasn't my concern. Alex said that he knew I'd come here eventually. When I asked him how, he said he already knew. Rodrick. What did you do to him? He's fine. Don't worry. I asked him how he even knew that I'd come for Rodrick, knowing he was alive. He sipped another glass of wine and said that he examined my actions with Fregley and that he knew I did my personal work myself. All he had to do was take a hostage and send a messenger to give me a clue where to go. I was relieved since it seems like he hadn't figured out I was broke. I was confused though. If he wanted me dead, he would have ordered his to kill me in the town. I demanded to know why Alex kept me alive. Alex stood up and stated that he ran into a dilemma in his business. A month ago, one of his gave him a lead. The Coalition and Port Cartel were going to make an alliance against the Mings. The two mobs hadn't attacked each other since, then making things even more suspicious. The head capos wanted to have a sit down in 5 days. Alex Aruda predicted that they would make their move and absorb their territory. Since the Triad was already on the fence with whether they should keep Alex Aruda due to last year's coup, simply fleeing would not be an option, along with also declaring war, since if he did it, it would show his incompetence. I cannot lose again, Greg. I will not become the underdog to these third country hicks. I can accept my past failure because you're going to help me annihilate these trash. The bastard stated that I had 5 days to earn the trust of these two capos and annihilate them from the inside. When I asked him how, he simply said that I did it once, I can do it again. I don't think this moron understands what happened in Plainview. Shit went down. Shit got crazy. I honestly don't know how I'm still alive. But he didn't care. He wanted them dead. And if they weren't, then Rodrick was. Alex snapped his fingers and said that Emilio and another hitman would help me out. Emilio was surprised by that statement because he blurted out a "What?" Before the escorted me out of the room, the men took me to the lobby, where the hitman was waiting for us. I tried introducing myself to him, but the fool only spoke Spanish, so that was a bust. Who even came up with those words? I was able to get my fancy car back from the It was obvious they'd taken anything that could be pawned from the car. Obviously, I couldn't just build another stand like last time and wait to be recognized by a rival mob. No, this time I had to use my status and money to get in good with the mob. First though, I had to sell my fancy car for $20,000. It would have sold for more, but the Mexicans have a shot car fee that makes them less expensive. Once I got that done, I got what was left of my original squad out of the cells. Then I had to go to schedule an appointment with the Coalition's public business, which was tequila. Their mascot was a Yankee chewing bubblegum while shooting a gun. I mean, I'm not going to say it's inaccurate, but I think they could have at least given the dude a beer. Yankees tequila. Drink like an American, be an American. The mob was actually able to schedule us within an hour, probably since not a lot of people wanted to do business with the Mafia. On the way there, I tried briefing Emilio and the hitman that they would have to stay in the car with my goons so that it didn't seem like I was from here. My goons weren't happy with that. Emilio more so. He said that he was the one who'd be given orders, not me. I told the that if I was going to make this work, I would have to be as non-Mexican as possible. With that being said, he said a couple comments on my disguise. You're just jealous because I look more sexy than you. He called me a dumbass and left the car to take a smoke. Dumb bastard. I don't know what's up his ass. Me and my goons were able to meet with a couple of businessmen in the building and told them that I would like to contribute to their other productions and pursuits. They understood and brought in a lieutenant. I told him about my business up north, and that I was looking to expand my connections with other capos. I believe that our friendship is magic, and magic is a tool to world domination. Of course. The lieutenant said that he liked the cut of my gib. However, before we could start the paperwork, I needed to take care of some business for him. A rogue hitman of the Coalition was recently spotted at the local McDonald's. They call him El Fuego. I didn't know why, but I didn't care why. They gave me a picture and sent me on my way. I got my men and drove down to the local McDonald's to take care of business. At the moment, I felt like I had forgotten something, but I didn't mind. I briefed the hitman on what he needed to do when he got there. Grabbed an AK from the trunk and went to kill the pyro. I waited with my goons for 5 minutes and nothing was happening, so I decided to take care of it myself and got my goons to grab their weapons. I made a warning shot into the air. 7 or 10 people ran out of the McDonald's. None of them looked like the target. I yelled for him to come out. No response. We dusted the McDonald's. That fool had to be dead, so we went inside to claim the body Instead, we were met with a Molotov cocktail. I dove out of the way under a table, as the inferno of a flamethrower cooked my goons alive. Still better than any meat served here anyways. I rolled out of the table and pointed my gun at the pyromaniac. Yet, before I could pull the trigger, a with a match and oil busted out of the bathroom with a hitman tied to a chair. He yelled that if I pulled the trigger, he'd kill the hitman. I think you know what I did. The damn fool exploded, with the aftermath catching the hitman on fire along with the... I had mere seconds to escape the burger joint before the fire engulfed the entrance. My goons were firing at something behind a car. I didn't understand why until it was a second pyro. I prepared to flank, but the building exploded. The blast sent me flying into a pole. My hands and feet felt numb. All I could hear was the ringing in my head. The whole road was on fire. I could no longer hear my goons. I heard footsteps coming near me, and I had a good guess of who it was. I could barely lift my revolver and the fool had a flamethrower. I was thinking to myself that this would be one hell of a way to die, burned alive in front of a burning McDonald's. I guess there's more bizarre ways to go. The pyro was getting closer, and then suddenly it hit me. I wasn't dead yet, and here I was, giving up the moment things got tough. This wasn't me. I immediately started looking around for the pyro. I couldn't see him since he clearly was behind the flames. I thought to myself what a miracle it would be if there was some water or rain. And there my stand purple rain appeared. Just kidding, I shot the fire hydrant, and with the water shooting out and hitting the pyro onto his back, his gas tanks hit the ground hard, and with the compressed air he was sent flying into the McDonald's. That son of a bitch deserved what happened to him after what he did to my men. Emilio was running over when he called after me. He asked what the hell went down and why everything was on fire. I briefed him on what happened and why McDonald's was on fire. All I wanted to do is hit up a Hungry Jack's and get a Whopper. We cleared the area before the cops and fire department arrived. Emilio drove me back to Aruda's house. This time, the only ones in the car were him and me. What was left of my goons were embers along with the hitman. The whole thing had been a failure for me. I had lost the men that were at the very least loyal to me. I don't trust the Mexicans, let alone Emilio. I think if he had come a minute earlier, he would have waited for me to die and then act. I made the call to the lieutenant that the deed was done and he scheduled me to meet with the boss tomorrow at noon. 4 days remain. The morning of the meeting, I met with Emilio. He was playing some card game with a picture bearing clubs. I told him what I had to do and where to meet the capo. He asked what my plan was to take him out. I said that I didn't have a plan at the moment. How the hell did you manage to pass high school? Bold of you to assume that I passed high school. I told him that I would just wing it, and that was good enough for him. Before we left, however, I smuggled an old pocket watch with a hidden blade hidden inside. Emilio and I went to where the big man wanted us to meet. There, his greeted us and searched us for weapons. All they found was my pocket watch. When asked how I got it, I made up a story. I got this watch from my great-great-great-great-grandfather. Lucky. All mine gave me was a lame-ass gift card. The led me to the capo waiting in the brief room. When the doors opened, the capo turned out to be a chick. Before we got down to business, she made sure our phones were confiscated and taken out of the room. Weird, right? Anyways, I told Emilio to wait on the other side of the table. I greeted myself to her, which she returned with a scoff, stating that she was surprised to see a gringo alive in Mexico. I simply ignored it and opened my briefcase and showed her our analytics in the past year. She was impressed. Wow, you don't suck. Emilio walked to the back of the room and accidentally broke the clock. When the capo asked what time it was, I took out my pocket watch and gave what was coming to her. I quickly covered her mouth and pushed her under the table. When the burst into the room asking what was going on, I grabbed the capo's pistol and acted fast. Emilio grabbed their AKs and yelled at me to move. We made our way to the front, only having to kill 3 guards. It was odd, but I'm not questioning luck. We were almost out when we came across a dude in the parking lot. Emilio and I jumped out of the way. Emilio fired at the guy with his rifle, but the bullets deflected off his armor. The heavy calmly reloaded his weapon and fired another rocket at us. This time, it hit a car, and the fallout knocked Emilio off his feet and onto the pavement. I didn't know what else to do except charge at him with my gun. He was prepared though and shot my hand with his pistol. The heavy tossed his gun away, wanting to finish me off properly. He aimed the bazooka at me and apologized for the mess in advance. Before I could be blown to bits, I took out the pistol one last time and shot not at the guy, but at his rocket in the bazooka. The heavy flew all the way back to the wall of the building. Although armor was still on, his body must be mush from the impact. I didn't waste time thinking about it and carried Emilio to our car. I sped off with firing at us, but thank God none of them hit me. Emilio was still knocked out by the time we made it back to Aruda's. He saw the aftermath on TV and was happy to hear that the capo was dead. Good, Greg. Thanks to your destruction, I can now meet with the other capo unabated. However, they are now on high alert and are on guard. They will definitely kill me now at the meeting. Aruda told me that I have before then to eliminate the other capo before then. 3 days remain. Aruda told me that the other capo was apparently going to appear at the fashion festival at the capital tomorrow. Despite recent events, he was mainly doing it to show he has no fear. I'll show him, but I need help for this. Emilio was still injured, and all of Mexico knew about El Gringo. So I called up an old friend, Jordan Jury. Now at first I wasn't expecting for him to pick up, but lo and behold, he did. Yet, he had more news for me than I had for him. Turns out the FBI raided my estate and interrogated my single goon. He gave them the information, and if the FBI knows I'm here, then so does the mob. I begged Jury to come down to help me, and I explained my situation to him. He said that helping me wouldn't matter because I'm already dead by the end of the year or some bullshit. I told him that I would pay him all the money left in my bank account just so that he would help me, which is zero, but he didn't need to know that. He stopped talking for a minute and then got back on the phone. He agreed. My ass was saved. I was so excited that I didn't notice Emilio was at my door. He had come to thank me for saving him yesterday. He admitted that if the situations were reversed, I'd be dead. I laughed it off, because how else are you supposed to respond to that? I told him that I was just doing what was right. He said that he would help me now, not as a job, but for destiny. 2 days remain. Jury came by this morning. I got him through without Aruda knowing. I got him into my room and briefed him on the situation. I told him my plan. He said I was a dumbass, which wasn't wrong. He told me that the only way to be able to get in, kill the capo, and get out was through sniping. I couldn't do the same thing like last time since there would be a huge ass crowd this time. I asked him if he could snipe. He can snipe, but he has no idea where the capo will show up or what the layout of the land was. He asked for at least a picture. Never before had I seen a more disappointed person in my life. You don't even know what they look like? Perhaps? Just as we were about to argue, Emilio came in and pointed his gun at Jury, asking who he was. I explained to him that Jury is a professional mobster who was more than suited to help me. Emilio asked how I know him. I told him that I killed his boss. Emilio grabbed me and closed the door. He told me that this wasn't a good idea, but I told him that it was the only idea we had. He thought about it and re-entered the room. Alright, what's the plan? 1 day remains. When I arrived at the balcony with Jury to pick a spot where to kill the capo, Jury said that wherever I picked, we could only have one shot at this. I picked next to one of the catering tables. He asked me some questions before I left, like where I would want to go for a vacation or something. I told him Canada, because why not? Next, Emilio disguised ourselves. He taught me how to act and talk like a Mexican without knowing any Spanish. Hey mommy, how you doing? Okay. We were all ready to go until we got there. Emilio and I split up to search for the capo, agreeing we would know based on how people reacted and talked to them. An hour or two passed until I noticed one man was getting more attention than the rest. The women were saying things in Spanish next to him, repeating El Jefe. I knew that Spanish word meant boss, so I tried getting close to him, but and suck-ups were trying to kiss his boots so much that I couldn't even see him. The main event started with multiple women showing up in these weird-ass outfits. I don't know, I guess I'm just uncultured. I started noticing some of the boot kissers were giving El Jefe a drink, which he would then decline. This was my chance. I grabbed a drink from the catering table and raised it so that Jury would see. What the hell? I walked over to El Jefe and offered him a drink. He declined, and just as he did, Jury fired, killing the fool. Yet, no one reacted, even with the guy's gray matter everywhere. It was then that I realized the girls, the boot kissers, El Jefe must have been a fake. The boot kissers, the girls, they were the lure. It was a trap. Just as the last girl left the stage, a man with a bomb strapped to his chest while tied to a wheelchair was pushed onto the stage. It was Emilio. Greg! I couldn't do anything except watch. I immediately ran from the stage. With Emilio's death, men with assault rifles flooded the area, stating that the real capo wanted El Gringo dead. I ran for it in all the confusion. People were shot and women were killed. I barely managed to get to my car when one of them exploded. The mobsters were screaming that they knew that the Ming gang was up to this and declared war on them. I knew then that I had to get to Aruda's estate before he could ice Rodrick. I noticed some fool was trying to get in a car, so I knocked him out and stole his keys, making a beeline to the estate. As I turned the radio on to hear something on the news, I looked outside and watched as the clocks turned to midnight. 0 days remain. Hey, I'm writing this before I go into the estate looking for Rodrick. I parked the car a mile away from the estate, since I noticed tanks were rolling up there. I didn't want to get blown away. I ran through the jungle, and I got to the back of the estate. By the time I got there, the place was on fire. All I could hear were men screaming and shots being fired. I loaded the assault rifle I stole before I left, and charged in. I ran down the corridors shouting, "Where's Rodrick?" looking for Aruda, so I could put one to his head. I thought to myself that he must be in his cell, but first I needed the damn key. "Where's Rodrick?" Some of them got me, but I didn't care. The adrenaline in my body made me feel like I could do anything right now. I wanted Aruda. Before I knew it, I heard a loud whistle come closer and closer before I realized it was a tank shell. I did what I could only do and jumped for it. One of my feet may have been broken, but I was alive. It didn't matter. All they wanted was Rodrick. "Where is Aruda?" I shot my way through men and fire and finally made it to Aruda's office. I shot open the door. Yet when I did find Aruda, he was ready. The bastard was waiting for me in his chair, sipping a glass of wine. I pointed my rifle at him, threatening to annihilate him unless he showed me where Rodrick was. Instead, he laughed at me. He said that I reminded him of Rodrick, moments before he buried him in cement. I pulled the trigger, but all I heard were clicks. See, before I kill you, Greg, I want you to know that even if you do beat me here now, you won't be safe. They will find you, and you will die. My life isn't the one you should be concerned about right now. I unloaded all of my bullets until there were none left. Aruda fell backwards out of the window and out of my life. With that, I left. Nothing gained or won. Everyone I cared about was either dead or no longer able to see me. A fugitive of the law and the mob. My only purpose now is that of a pawn. Greg and the Mafia, Part 2. Alright, so that is the end of Greg and the Mafia Part 2. I thought that this was going to wrap up the Greg and the Mafia story, but judging by that ending, I'm not too sure anymore. I mean, that was a pretty open-ended ending. So, could we possibly be getting a Greg and the Mafia Part 3? I mean, I hope so. This was definitely one of the best Part 2s we've ever done, ever. I mean, usually with a Part 2, it's not as good as the first part of the story, or it's just as good. This Part 2 is awesome. It's a little bit shorter, but going to Mexico is a really cool part in this story. Let me know what you guys thought about Greg and the Mafia Part 2. There was a lot of things that went down here, and let me know if you guys want to see a Part 3 of this, because I'm really hoping there's going to be a Part 3. But for now, that is the end to the craziest and longest Diary of Wimpy Kid fanfiction story we have ever read. So that's going to do it for me. I hope all of you guys enjoyed. If you did, of course, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. Make sure to put on the notifications so you never miss another fanfiction video that comes out. I hope all of you have a terrific rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.